I woke up in the rain and found myself, only to realize my boyfriend had left me behind. Every year, my boyfriend's family goes on a camping trip because 3 of them have birthdays in the same month. This was my first time joining, and I was genuinely excited. I even asked ahead of time if I needed to bring anything extra or help cover costs. They waved it off and told me to just bring clothes. They'd handle everything. Once we arrived, I did my best to help out. I helped set up tents, cooked, washed dishes, whatever was needed. I didn't mind, even though I knew I hadn't contributed financially. What I didn't expect was to be given an old tent, worn, sagging, with tiny holes I pretended not to notice. That first night, my boyfriend slept beside me, so I told myself it was fine. Then, sometime before dawn, the rain started. Hard. I woke up soaked and shivering, and when I turned to him, he was gone. At first, I thought maybe he'd stepped out to use the bathroom. Then I noticed his blanket was gone too. I looked toward the larger family tent and felt something tighten in my chest. I didn't cry or panic. I just sat there, wet and quiet, trying to understand why I felt so small all of a sudden. Because the rain was getting worse, I walked toward the nearby hotel reception that shared the campsite. That's where I ran into his older brother, calmly booking a room. He mentioned they were getting one because of the kids and the storm. I stood there for a second, realizing I could have been included. No one had even asked. When I went back to the campsite to look for my boyfriend, he wasn't there anymore. I later found out he'd gone to the hotel too, and ended up sleeping in the room with his brother. Meanwhile, I stayed alone in the tent, listening to the rain soak through the fabric, feeling embarrassed for reasons I couldn't fully explain. The next morning, I woke up stiff, cold, and quiet. Everyone else had slept comfortably indoors. No one apologized. No one explained. It was like my discomfort was expected, maybe even deserved, because I hadn't paid for anything. I didn't argue. I didn't cause a scene. I just withdrew. To this day, I haven't spoken much to his family. I'm not yelling. I'm not angry in a loud way. But something shifted that weekend, and I don't think it was just about the tent. It was about realizing how easy it was for me to be left behind, and how no one noticed until I stopped trying to be okay with it. After we got home, I didn't bring it up right away. Part of me kept wondering if I was overreacting, if I was supposed to just laugh it off and move on. But every time I thought about that night, the rain, the silence, the empty tent, my chest tightened again. My boyfriend acted like the trip went fine. He talked about the birthdays, the food, the jokes everyone shared at the hotel. I noticed he never once mentioned me being left behind. That hurt more than the rain ever did. A few days later, I finally asked him why he didn't wake me before leaving the tent. He paused, then said he assumed I'd be okay. He said there were kids, the storm was bad, and there wasn't enough space in the room. He didn't sound cruel, just comfortable with the choice he made. That's when I realized this wasn't really about camping. It was about priority. I told him I didn't expect luxury or special treatment. I just expected basic consideration. To be asked. To be remembered. To not wake up alone wondering what I'd done wrong. He apologized, but it felt more like an apology for my feelings than for his actions. He said his family didn't mean anything by it, and maybe they didn't. But intention doesn't erase impact. A few weeks after the trip, we were talking about future plans, holidays, family events, maybe moving in together someday. As he spoke, I realized something quietly unsettling. I was imagining myself constantly adjusting, constantly making room, constantly being the one left waiting while everyone else was taken care of first. That night, I asked myself a simple question I couldn't ignore anymore. If this happens again, would anything really change? The answer was no. When I told him I wanted to end things, he looked genuinely surprised. He said I was being too sensitive, that the camping trip was just a misunderstanding. Hearing that made my decision feel even clearer. Because if being left alone in the rain didn't register as a problem to him, then my safety and comfort never truly had. I told him I didn't hate him. I told him I believed he cared in his own way. But I also told him I didn't want a future where I had to explain why I deserved consideration. We parted quietly, no blocked numbers, no insults, just distance. And for the first time since that trip, I felt relief instead of doubt. I wasn't asking for too much. I was asking the wrong person. Walking away didn't make me bitter. It made me calmer. Because I finally chose myself, and that choice felt warmer than any dry tent ever could. But a few days later, he started reaching out again. At first, it was casual messages, asking if I'd eaten, if I was okay. Then it turned into long explanations about how I'd misunderstood everything, how it really wasn't a big deal, how I should have known he didn't mean to hurt me. When I didn't respond, he showed up where I was. He said he just wanted to talk, that he missed me. Watching him stand there, trying to pull me back into the same conversation we'd already had, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, just clarity. He kept saying he was sorry, but his apologies still came with reasons, still came with excuses. And I realized he wasn't chasing me because he understood what went wrong. He was chasing me because he didn't like being the one left behind this time. I told him gently that I wasn't angry, and I didn't need closure anymore. I'd already gotten it the night I woke up alone in the rain. Weeks passed and he stopped chasing. No more messages, no unexpected appearances, no more explanations. And for the first time in months, I felt quiet relief instead of worry. I didn't dwell on the rain, the empty tent, or the hotel. Those moments became lessons instead of regrets. I learned that my feelings weren't too much to ask for, and that being left behind didn't make me weak. It made me aware of what I truly deserved. I started focusing on myself. Small things at first. A warm cup of coffee in the morning, walks in the fresh air, catching up with friends who actually made time for me. Slowly, I noticed the space where he used to be was no longer heavy. It was open, free. And that openness felt better than any apology, any explanation, or any chase could ever give me. I finally realized that some people don't fit into your life, no matter how familiar they feel. And that's okay. Because in the end, I didn't need him to stay. I just needed to stay with myself. As I walked away, I felt steady, not dramatic, not broken, just done, and finally choosing myself. Weeks after that rainy morning, I stopped thinking about him as much. The empty space in the tent, the cold rain, the hotel, it no longer felt like a wound, just a reminder. I focused on myself for the first time in a long while. I started small, long walks, catching up with friends, little moments of warmth I had ignored when I was trying to fit in. Every step reminded me that I didn't need someone else to feel safe or valued. Sometimes I think about him, not with anger, not with sadness, just with clarity. I realize now that being left behind wasn't rejection, it was a lesson. Some people don't belong in your life, no matter how familiar they feel. And that's okay, because in the quiet that followed, I found something I hadn't had before. Me, stronger, calmer, and more certain that I deserved someone who chose me, even when it was inconvenient. I woke up that day in the rain, but I didn't just survive it. I walked out of it whole. The rain that morning could have been just a memory of hurt. Instead, it became a reminder that I didn't need anyone else to feel safe or valued. I walked out of that storm stronger, calmer, and free, finally choosing myself. The end. Thank you for watching. Please hit subscribe and like if you like these video.